reason that they should give support for them in order to create the state. So they turned to Palestine and they gave it the name Israel, even though they had nothing with God, and they decided to create a state of Israel. The rabbis, around the world, immediately, all the rabbis, leading authorities, stood up and said, this is unacceptable. First of all, they're heretics, they don't practice Judaism. But even if they would, it's forbidden for us to make 1 inch of a Jewish sovereignty, regardless of any part of the world. Certainly not in Palestine, we're not allowed to return en masse. Certainly, and even if it would have been a desolate, uninhabited land, we would oppose this concept of a Jewish state. It's unforbidden, but it gets compounded thousandfold because being that they decided to make it in Palestine, there was a technical problem that it was inhabited. The majority of people living there were Muslims, and then the second community was Christians, and it was the Jewish. All three of them didn't want to be under this state of Israel. So, and not only that, but you can't steal and kill. The Torah says, what are the basics? You're not allowed to steal or kill. That's the basics of this covenant we made to God. So, but they had nothing with God. They were totally estranged. They threw away the yoke of the Torah. But so the rabbi said, how can you create a state? You're not allowed to have a state, and you're not allowed to steal or kill. So in every facet, Zionism is totally contradictory. On top of that, Jews have to show gratitude for the good that is done to them. The Jewish people, when we were going through the Inquisition and the Crusades and all these hundreds of years, the Muslim countries took in the Jews. And we were able to flourish, including the Ottoman Empire, which was Quds, Jerusalem, and so Palestine was under their rule. And they took in the Jews. We lived together. There was no human rights groups to protect us. We had we believe in one God, but we have a distinctly different religion. So, and we lived in the Muslim countries who embraced us and gave us our lives. They gave us. So how dare you? The Torah says you are required to show gratitude. How dare you come and take the land away from the people who gave you a home? And not only that, but in order to be able to gain, really just 2 minutes or 3 more, in order to be able to sell this to the world that you have a right to the land, so they had to tell the world, oh, it was an empty world. People didn't have smartphones, they didn't have all this, and they had very little knowledge of what was going on in that exotic land called Palestine. So they told the world, oh, it's an empty land. It's a land without a people for a people without a land. That was a Zionist narrative. But they couldn't deny that there's problems, that the people were fighting with them. So for that they said, oh, these are inhumane. These are people who are villains, and they just hate the Jews. So to complete the narrative, they said they have 2 weapons. One weapon is that God gave us the Torah. It belongs to us. They have a deed, the document, the Torah. And the ones who are living there are simply living on our land. Secondly, the ones who are fighting us, it's because they're anti-Semitic. They hate the Jewish people. And even though it's totally false, but that's the narrative that they sold. So they use the second nuclear weapon that they use. The powerful weapon is accusing of anti-Semitism. Even though we lived together, we lived as brothers and sisters, we babysat each other's children, all of a sudden, the new narrative is no, because they're Muslims basically, they hate the Jews, and that's why they want to drive them out. They don't talk about that there was over 500 villages that were there existing, and that it was destroyed, so that they say, no, it's because they hate the Jews. So because of that, Jewish people have from day one never accepted the existence of the state of Israel. And they pleaded with the United Nations, as I was showing you that the chief rabbi of Palestine said, we furthermore wish to express, this is in 1947, Chief Rabbi Dushinsky pleaded with the United Nations that we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. He was representing the Jewish community there. And Jews for 76 years beaten, arrested, and if it would happen in the United States, it would be a scandal. And this happens daily over there. So that's what basically the story why we oppose and we will never accept the occupation, and why we cry and hurt with the suffering of the Palestinians. We are frustrated because it's being done in our name, in the name of my religion, and in the name as if the Jewish people, the more religious you are, the more you will support it. On the contrary, Invariably, the more the religious the community you will see, once I tell you this, you can see. You go to England, come to New York, the second largest Jewish besides Jerusalem, you won't find one Israeli flag in Williamsburg, the most largest concentration. Why? Because they know their Torah and they practice the religion. They are anti the state of Israel, anti its existence, and we want a total free Palestine, a rethinking, just like apartheid. People realize that it is totally wrong. The same thing is with the creation of the state of Israel. It is totally it is a big mistake. Simply words, it is a mistake. And now I'll take questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much, David Weiss. I think for a very excellent brief introduction to Judaism and how it differs with Zionism, which is very clear cut. So I think for this special discussion, I think the format is to encourage as much as participation as we can. So due to the limited time, I would like to advise each one of you who asked a question to keep it very brief. So I think I will take the first three first, maybe question to the side, or you want to comment questions. Let me see like the first three hands. First one. To be fair to the sides as well. Okay, then Zaim said one. And also have to be fair to the back as well. And yeah, at the back, I think he raised his hand. But don't worry, I think we'll get 2 more rounds of Q&A. So first of all, please.
My name is Dr. Norela. We've been seeing in the news a lot of the protests inside Israel. It's been big. But it seems like even with the latest 2 days ago, the ICJ ruling said that occupation is illegal and they need to move out. But no one can do anything whatsoever. How confident are you that the people in Israel themselves can stop these killings, especially on the starvation and the water? Because I understand that their purpose is just to free the what do you call this? People who were kidnapped, right? But what we know is that the Israel people do not care about the Palestinians, but they do want their hostages. So how do you think that the Israel themselves, because the US is not going to do anything because they're controlled by Israel. So is there anything anyone in the world can do now?
Rabbi Weiss, can we like take 2 more questions?
Okay.
The back, Zaim, I think.
Yes. So should I ask now?
Yes.
Okay, hi. My name is Zain Salimon. I'm from IAIS, Malaysia. I used to study in Rutgers University in New Jersey, and I have formal education in Judaism. So my question is, actually I have 3 different questions. But first of all, I'm going to ask whether Neturei Karta is actually part of the bigger sect of Orthodox Judaism, which is Satmar. And secondly, I heard some criticism on the interpretation of the 3 boards. Some people say that it is metaphorical, it's not literal, therefore what the Neturei Karta tries to push is not really valid, but I want to hear your opinion on that. And then, this is a very basic question. On your attire, is that like Ashkenazi Jewish attire or Middle Eastern? Alright, thank you.
Thank you, gentleman at the back, Mr. Yusuf.
Shalom alaikum. From your accent, I figured that you're from New York.
Yeah.
Okay, my question is that one of the biggest and largest forces within Zionism is non-Jewish. So I'd just like to know, from your activism's point of view, how are your programs and how are your strategies as far as this form of Zionism is concerned, more specifically Christian Zionism, and more specifically in the United States, where you are from, I guess. Thank you.
With the help of the Almighty, the Torah, it says, there's a verse in the Torah, it says, "Why are you rebelling against me? It will not be successful." In fact, it's a part, just Torah is divided into portions that we go through it every year, and it was just the recent portion that the people, when they would had to remain, there was a decree that we had to be 40 years in the wilderness. There were some people who decided they want to go up. They said, no, we're going to go in because it was God's will, and God's basically. And part of the portions there, it speaks about how the Jews were not obeying God, and so God said, why are you rebelling against me? It will not be successful. There is no such thing that we are certain that the state of Israel will end. It will end because it's against the will of the Almighty. Now, we're not prophets. We have no idea when this will happen. We don't know. We didn't know how long Hitler will be. We didn't know how long the USSR, when they didn't permit religion and they sent to Siberia. We don't know. We know what's right and what's wrong. So it was a great Rabbi Beck, of blessed memory. He used to say, I'm reluctant a lot of times to speak about solutions because then if you'll disagree with me, you'll say it's not your idea it won't work out or something. So therefore, your whole thesis, your whole what you said is also wrong. He said, so we have to distinctly divide the two. The fact is, just like a doctor, when he wants to prescribe a medication, he must diagnose the sickness. If he just comes along because he can write a prescription for cortisone or something, and the patient goes out feeling well, and he didn't understand what the sickness is, he's a criminal. So the issue is, the first thing is to diagnose what the issue is. The issue is that Zionism, today, the world accepts that there's a conflict of religion, Islam, Muslims, and Jews. And that the state of Israel, you mentioned about the hostages or whatever, so it's like these people are complaining about evil people, that the Palestinian people are very evil. And they dehumanize them. That's why maybe the world is silent, because they managed to, over 76 years, to dehumanize the people, the people of Palestine. They were so successful and having the mic in their hand for so long. So, but that's totally criminal. That's wrong, because it has nothing. It has nothing. On the contrary, the Palestinian people were living with the Jews. They were our hosts. We were good. It's totally false. What's evil is because you came along and you took over their land. It's simple as that. And so the criminal, the villain, is Zionism and the state of Israel. End of sentence. And like the Secretary General of the United Nations said, it didn't come out of a vacuum. So we're talking here. You're asking me. You ask me what the people, what will they be able to accomplish? Will they have to stop? First of all, I don't know what we can do. What we can stop it. If we can stop it or can't stop it. First, we have to know, though. The world has to know, and you as researchers, as distinguished scholars, and the world leaders and the communities, the world has to finally grasp and appreciate that they've misunderstood the issue. The problem is there's an interloper. There was a beautiful fabric called the Holy Land, Palestine. Muslims lived together with Christians and Jews with a distinctly different religion, and that wasn't an impediment to peace. It's the creation of the occupation called the Zionist state of Israel. That's the problem. So don't keep on looking for different solutions. The Camp David Accord, this accord, that accord, and everything. And the solution is to remove something that's relatively new, that's impeding peace. Then we can live together in peace. There is solutions. We could, if the people, if there's thousands of people who committed atrocities, they ran the camps, the prisons and so forth, and they feel uncomfortable, they say they can't live together with Palestinians. Just like by apartheid, the people were afraid there will be a mass murder. But then say, no, it's just that's fear-mongering. If you will take the people who committed these and use the billions of dollars that you're using for military aid, and you'll take these and they should move to the United States, to Canada. The people who feel uncomfortable because they're afraid that the Palestinians will attack them for the crimes they did. But the rest of the humanity could live together. Because it's not a Wild West. It's not like wild people. We're talking about people who want to live in peace, the normal human being, the Palestinian leadership, if it's whoever their leaders are, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it is PLO, they want peace. Everybody wants peace. And the ones that are afraid, we can move them to someplace else, that would be a solution. But I'm saying the solution has nothing to do with nobody. You cannot, therefore, decide because you don't have the right medication for a certain ailment. So you're going to say, okay, I'll therefore declare that the sickness is something else, and therefore I'll be able to give a medication for it. The sickness is the Zionist occupation. That's what it is. Finished. So that's very important to know. So I don't know, people in Israel, the people who are fighting them, who refuse to go to the army, the people are there. There's plenty of people who would love to be finished with that whole Zionism. They simply want to live, and of course the religious Jews who are to the Torah, we want a free Palestine. So I mean, we can live together, and they are interested in the people of Palestine having back their respect, of course. So it's not only they're interested in the people and the hostages, we're talking the normal mass people want peace and want to live and give the Palestinians their lives. The Satmar, the Neturei Karta was the name. It's in Aramaic. It's from the Talmud. It comes. It says Neturei Protectus Karta of the city. That's the name because it was in the 1930s. Before this, they would distribute news. They didn't have smartphones. They didn't have all the ways we have today. So they would put placards on the walls. So they took a verse, a statement of the Talmud that says a rabbi sent his students. Students went to a city. He said, when you come back, he told the rabbi instructed the students, please tell me who are the Neturei Karta in the city that you're going to, the protectors of the city. So they came back and they said, there's so many soldiers, so many police. He said, no. Neturei Karta, the protectors of the city are the scholars. These are the ones, the wise men, the saints, the holy men. These are the protectors of the city. So in order to fight Zionism, one of the statements they put on the walls of the city of Jerusalem was this statement in order to show against Zionism that they're not the protectors. They're Neturei Karta, they wrote. The Talmud says those ones that you're looking at as the protectors, they are the destroyers of the city. The Neturei Karta are the ones who are, as I say, scholars and practice. So basically, the Neturei Karta was given a name that was given. It's not a membership organization. The ones that are very vocal against Zionism were given the name Neturei Karta, which includes from Satmar. Satmar is a very large. Satmar was a city in Romania, and the chief and the head of the rabbis. Was custom to give their names after the city. So Rabbi Teitelbaum, Rabbi Yoel Teitel of best memory, was the rabbi in Romania. He became the chief rabbi of Palestine. After Rabbi Dushinsky, he was, a second rabbi, he became the chief rabbi, and he himself moved to New York. And he urged his followers, he said, if you can't leave because you don't want to give support to the occupation. So tens of thousands of Jews actually left. And he remained with the title for 30, 40 years as chief rabbi of Palestine while he was living in New York. That's why we have such a strong community in New York, anti-Zionist. And basically, so now, so they come. The question was that is it like they say? What I mentioned in the Talmud that it's just theory. People again can make reform Judaism. And I can't fight them. The world will say, yeah, sure. How many numbers are you? Oh, you're many more than Orthodox. Okay, so you're legitimate. Somebody's going to come along and decide that something you can ignore the Talmud, ignore what I've just mentioned, these laws. I can't fight them, but they're not going to change the facts. If somebody comes along and says 1 and 1, as like great Rabbi Beck used to say, well, somebody's going to come and with whole theories and a whole big blackboard and write that 1 and 1 is 3, and he's going to prove it, but you're going to turn around and say, okay, it was a beautiful hour that I spent with you. 1 and 1 is 2, right? You can't convince anybody here that's night, even though the son has been brilliant. The same thing is over here. They cannot refute the fact is of Torah that we are forbidden to leave exile. That's Judaism. They're going to come along and we always say a good lawyer can take a mass murderer and make him innocent, but he's not innocent. This is the same thing, and the Torah says it, by the way, that a person, it says that we're not allowed to eat worms. The Torah, the Talmud says, I can prove you 150 ways that it's kosher. It's not kosher. If you're not allowed to eat pig, you're not allowed to eat worm. But you can prove, but it doesn't mean anything. The Judaism remains the same. The ones who are true to Judaism, invariably, as the ones you will find, the communities, we follow what is right, and there's no such thing that you can. And Zionism, I will mention this because Zionism uses this constantly. What you ask them, and people many ask me, they say that, what do they do with the 3 oaths that I mentioned, right? It's something they do because you see religious Zionists. So one of the answers is, that the nation, when God sent us into exile, He put the other nations of the world under oath that they should not oppress the Jews. In other words, it's enough that we have to suffer, we're in exile, and we're throughout the world, but you should not oppress them unnecessarily, whatever the wording is there. So being that we were so badly oppressed, so that it nullifies the other oaths. That's what they say. That's not true. And our rabbi says, so they're
Apologies
basically...
to interrupt you,
yeah.
sorry, Rabbi.
Yeah.
I think that there's one more question by the
The
gentleman. at the back.
attire, yeah, well, first he asked about attire.
Okay, okay, one more.
Yeah, the attire was that our clothing, basically it is, being anti-Zionist is across the board. It doesn't matter what land, we have many Sephardic, we have Yemenite Jews and everything. But yes, our clothing is from Ashkenaz clothing, yeah.
So one more question is Christian Zionism.
Yeah, Christian Zionism.
Maybe you can make
Right,
1
yeah,
minute
yeah,
and
yeah.
open second
It
round.
happens to be that I think in the coming week there's going to be the annual conference in Washington. Don't go. of the Christian Zionists. They go every year. They're the largest convention, Washington Convention Center, which is 3 blocks long, and they have this convention for Zionism. John Hagee, if you know the names of all these guys, and we go tirelessly year in and year out. We stand in front over there, and people are very polite. We're different than the Zionists. A lot of the ones from Israel who are vicious, but a lot of these people are polite. They come over and we try to educate them, but they are so into their issue of that, the children of Israel, the land of Israel, or whatever. So it's very hard to deal with. That is why the Zionists picked Palestine to make their homeland, because they understood there's millions and millions of Christian Zionists, and they don't know the Jewish education about that we were an oath and not oath. They will just know the books, the Bible is of the children of Israel. So they are supporting it. In numbers, they are much more than Jews, and in support and money-wise, it's all the same thing. They are the supporters of the state of Israel. But it's wrong. It's totally wrong.
That's great. I think we have exactly 12 minutes more. I think Dr. Said we have to end by 1:15. So can I get a raise of hands again? Okay. I think Mr. Jason, you want to ask questions as well?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. I think I want for you. Sorry, I'm using my power as a moderator, but please don't be angry with me. I think to the gentleman with the camera, that one, and maybe last one, Mr. Arif. Yeah. I think that's all for now. And unless you can finish it in 5 minutes.
We'll try. Maybe
Chego as me. Also,
but the story is that they did it all, unfortunately, which we feel very bad about. They had arranged a live 3 o'clock.
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
Yeah. So I don't know how long it takes to get there. We have to be a little earlier to
We can
be
extend
there.
it a bit.
So we
Okay.
can extend it a bit. Yeah. Okay.
so
15 minutes.
Yeah. Sure.
please.
I'm loving to be here, I must tell you.
I think we have Mr. Jason representing the Christian community.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Jason Leong. I am the founder of the Association of Next Gen Christians of Malaysia, whom we are also supportive of the Palestine cause. And I just want to ask this question because most times Israeli leaders, political leaders, will take out the Bible and they say that the Bible is our title deed because in the Bible it promises us the promised land. But they are not Christians, they are Jewish. So at most, maybe not embrace the religion of Judaism, probably Zionism. So why don't they take up the holy book from Judaism or Zionism, if they have any holy book, to use that as a basis to claim the promised land?
Well, with God's help.
Yeah. Question first. And the next one is.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi Weiss. My background is in comparative religion. I'm based in Chicago. You rightly pointed out that Theodor Herzl and his collaborators were actually secular Jews, and it was for them more a question of Jewish ethnicity rather than religion. But if we look at the contemporary scene in Israel, the Likud party has been able to survive largely because of parties which call themselves religious parties. So if they had withdrawn their support, it would fall. So I mean, what is the status of these religious parties in your opinion? And further, looking at it from a religious perspective, for example, there's a big attempt to hasten the advent of the Messiah. For example, there are people trying to cultivate a red cow, in fulfillment of biblical prophecy. And this is one reason why the Christian Zionists in the US are so excited, because they think when the Messiah comes, all the Jews will convert, and etc., etc. They don't even really love the Jews. So could you please address this religious aspect, in the contemporary context?
You got that? Okay, Mr. Arif, please.
Assalamualaikum, Rabbi. Thank you very much for your engaging session. I have questions with regards to Emil Fackenheim and his 614th commandment, saying that we should not grant Hitler a posthumous victory. So he said that Hitler shouldn't be granted a victory because then it would be undermining Judaism. So my question to you is, would you see that post-Holocaust theology being a problem with the creation of Zionism in Israel? And also on the second point, do you see an implosion of Israeli society for not keeping with halakha?
I'm sorry, you have to repeat those questions. Do I see the post?
Do you see the implosion of Israeli society? Because now it's fully secular, and religious education is not centered upon the young generation of Israel. Therefore, there's no link between halakha and also current lived realities.
Let me first address these two, and I'll come back to this one. Yeah.
Is there one more question?
Thank you. This terminology of Judaization has been popping up. This is what they are doing to Judaize Al-Aqsa, Baitul Maqdis and all that. So that is one question. The second one is, what is your...
I don't understand the Judaization.
Yeah, they are doing this, what they call Judaization of the Masjid Al-Aqsa. So what does that mean? I mean, the second one is IPAC as the core power of
AIPAC.
AIPAC. They call it AIPAC. It's been very powerful in the United States. Are you doing something to break them with the influence that they have in the United States?
Okay, so let's start with the help of the Almighty. I'm going to continue with it. He asked what they're using the Torah, that they use the Bible and so forth. Now, again, when you're talking about the Christian one, that they use the Bible and not the Torah, you are saying that they're referring to. Again, mostly the Bible is the 5 books of Moses, and they're coming there and they're trying to draw the legitimacy of the state from what it says in the 5 books of Moses. But again, they're talking about the Jewish people who made this covenant, that we have this covenant that we are what we're required to do and what we're not required to do, what we're forbidden to do. So, but they don't have this whole, the Talmud, the oral law that's given to the Jewish people. And the Talmud is a whole other story. I'm sure I mentioned that people have piqued the interest. It's not, it's very vilified, but it's in truth, it's part of the basics of Jewish, the oral law. But it's massive. It's explaining. There's a lot of words in the prophecies that speaks about how this person sinned and this and that. It's a lot of times, but it's all metaphor. For instance, there's a story of a prophet that he took strange wives and this and that, but he never did that. It was just he was a great, very holy man, but he didn't. God felt that he did not rebuke enough the people, so the sin was put on his shoulders. So in other words, a lot of it is metaphor, and that's the Talmud is full. It's 20 volumes. It's massive, and a lot of it is. But a Jew cannot be a practicing Jew if you do not uphold both the written law and the oral law, which is the Talmud. So Judaism is only one Judaism. It's exacting. You cannot keep the Sabbath if you don't keep the oral law. It's because there's a few verses in the Torah says you have to eat kosher. It's very and what are all the details? It's massive in the laws. So without the oral law that was given to Moses, that later was written in the form of the Talmud, you can't be a practicing Jew. It's ridiculous. If somebody comes and say, "Oh, I don't follow the Talmud. I don't follow this. I don't follow the 3 oaths," it's a joke. It's not Judaism. He's just doing what he wants. It's an exacting way how Judaism goes. Now, when you ask what Christians are, they have obviously they have no respect, or I'm not saying respect, but they have nothing to do with what the laws are. They don't understand that according to Judaism, we are forbidden for 2,000 years to go. They're just looking at the story of Moses went to Mount Sinai, the children of Israel had to go into Israel, and they're just selling this story because that's the story that the Zionists said, hey, remember this, and it's good for them. But why they're not using the Torah? The Torah is more or less, I mean, there's a lot, and the words are, but there's changes obviously, but the Torah, they mean the 5 books of Moses. They're using that, but they're ignoring all the basics of Judaism that tells us, for instance, it says an eye for an eye in the Torah. So people say an eye for an eye, not got enough. No Jewish scholar, he says that he's not a scholar. There's no such thing. By us, an eye for an eye means that you pay the cost of a person. They evaluate how much the cost of a person without an eye and so forth. No such thing as an eye for an eye in the Jewish teaching. So if somebody's going to call the Jewish laws an eye for an eye, it has nothing with Judaism. They're just abusing. Netanyahu goes into the and is going to do tomorrow, or going to go into Congress, and he's going to roll his eyes and speak about how God gave the Jews the Torah and Mordechai and Esther, and he keeps on talking stories. When he is running a country that doesn't keep the 10 Commandments, all the laws of Sabbath, of kosher, everything they do wrong. In very short, by the way, they made a new language. What is the language? Ivrit, modern Hebrew. Our Torah was given Lashon Kodesh, the holy language that the Torah is written in. Why do they make a new language if they're making a Jewish country with the Star of David? Because they detest God. There's no reason for this. And Rabbi Teitelbaum, the chief rabbi of Palestine, said it's rather bow to a cross, which is not Jewish, than to speak this language. That it's totally what we say treif, non-kosher, non-halal. And yet they're making a Jewish. They tell the world it's Jewish. Netanyahu is going to be preaching that it's a Jewish state. You should respect us. And when they made a language, they made a law system that Netanyahu is waiting to get charged as a criminal. And yet they have a Supreme Court, a court system. That's blasphemy. According to Judaism, if a Jew has a conflict with another Jew, it has to be adjudicated through the Torah. If they go out of the Torah, it's considered blasphemy. They made the country that's supposed to be a Jewish country, yet they didn't use. They made another law system. That in and of itself is blasphemy. The whole state is antithetical to it, and it's hypocrisy. It's just using it as a facade. It's totally wrong. You just have to dig into it. Besides which, they dig up graves, archaeological. The body is sacred by us. It's forbidden. I go on and on and on what they do to Judaism. But anyway, the Haredi supports, unfortunately, everybody knows that the power and the ones that are forcing that they should keep on fighting is what they call the extreme, the Haredim, or whatever they call them, the Orthodox. Now, let me tell you something. If you will look at the communities, again, you have to do a little studying, a little going under the surface. You will see, invariably, as I said, the very religious communities are anti-Zionist. You're always seeing what you think the Orthodox to the settlers. A lot of these guys are idealists. That's why they became settlers. But as a general rule, almost entirely, they come from either non-religious families or marginally religious. The ones who supported Zionism, what they call the religious Zionists, were Mizrahi.